Welcome to A Real Authority. Today I'm talking about Project Hail Mary, by far one of my most anticipated films of the year and the latest adaptation of an Andy Weir novel. Before getting into it, might as well address the elephant in the room. I don't have my light on, not by choice. My power's out, which has honestly made today kind of the worst day of 2026 so far, which really does stink because the Dune 3 trailer came out. That's great, by the way. Which means that Doomsday's release date might actually be moved up or pushed back. I don't know. Doomsday seems too competitive right now. But back on topic, in terms of the power outage, it really did interrupt my sleep last night. I usually like a fan in the background in order to actually fall asleep. I still had some decent sleep. Still was exhausted even when I got up and even after the many naps I took. Yeah, still not feeling 100%. So if you wonder why my voice is kind of more low energy than usual, yeah, that's why. But either way, I'm excited to talk about Project Hail Mary, so I just couldn't hold it off because the sooner I talk about it, the better a chance you'll be able to catch it if I do give it a positive review. But let's get into it. So the premise is this scientist played by Ryan Gosling named Ryland Grace. He's hired by NASA in order to head this mission to save the sun, as the star is dying, so now he must figure out how to save it with the help of a rocky friend he meets along the way. The first trailer for Project Hail Mary, I was excited for it, but I was kind of nervous that the mix of like serious dramatic tone and comedy wouldn't work well, at least based off the first trailer. The more trailers came out, the less I worried about that too much because the movie just looked too good for me to even worry about that. It was kind of a safe bet that this would be kind of just amazing. Plus, Lord and Miller's track record outside of animated films is rather consistent, although it's mostly comedic work. But I mean, the Jump Street movies are definitely enjoyable, and if you really want to see their cinematic influence, yes, it's in the animated movies, but they make some damn good animated movies. Even if Spider-Verse is not exactly their directorial effort, the fact that they led that production the way they did, yeah, Beyond the Spider-Verse is probably my most anticipated film of next year. But regardless, with Project Hail Mary, I was rather excited, especially based on the more I saw of it. I should also mention I didn't read the Andy Weir novel beforehand. Plus, I have not seen The Martian. I had an interest in seeing it beforehand, but I just ultimately didn't have the time. Life outside of YouTube really is kind of just the. But regardless, how is this form of escapism? Really good. And actually, that's underselling it. Probably one of the best movies of the decade. Like, I kind of knew that it was going to be this good, plus the review embargo lifted a week ago, so like Hopper, so many people were telling me, damn, this is a masterpiece. But even with that said, plus the surprise of me getting this on my arrival to the theater, the movie on its own excels in almost every area it tries to achieve. I guess starting off with Ryan Gosling, like, Gosling as this charismatic actor, and that charisma absolutely delivers probably one of his best characters and performances of his entire career. Grace is just one of those characters you can't help but root for, but you do understand he's not exactly a professional given the circumstances, but that may just be his strength. And he sold the comedic and dramatic tones effectively well, so Gosling was definitely the right choice for this part. Plus, the movie basically centers around his character, so the movie rests on his shoulders, even if there are other actors in the movie and the titular Rocky, which I'll get to in a minute. But this is Gosling's show, and if Gosling wasn't this good, I think the movie would have a hard time of excelling as much as it ultimately did. But Gosling commits, and I absolutely love his character and his performance. Plus Rocky, Rocky, I couldn't help but be won over by him. Like, in terms of the emotion and comedy, Rocky is a standout in that regard. Plus, you really do buy the dynamic between Grace and Rocky to the point where it basically defines this movie. Like, even if the main plot is about the sun dying, I'd argue that Grace and Rocky's friendship really just outshines everything else in the movie to the point where, yeah, definitely something I was surprisingly won over by. By surprisingly, I mean to the extent that I did. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are absolute legends, and they haven't really made a bad movie, so it's no surprise that their direction here is outstanding. Like, I think this might actually be their best film in terms of just grandeur and scope, because this is probably their most ambitious work yet. Like, even if it's based on a book, sometimes book to screen adaptations can lead to magic, and here, that's absolutely the case. Like, how they handle the numerous elements in this movie, technically as well as story wise, it's just commendable. Raising the stakes, tension, as well as the heart to an extent where I think we might have doubted that Lord and Miller would be able to do this sort of stuff beforehand, but the fact that they did it here, it just puts them on another level in which, yeah, I'm excited to see what they do next. But this is Lord and Miller. I couldn't believe that they had this movie in them, but they did. Drew Goddard's screenplay is also strong, tremendously so, complementing the direction effectively, plus also just building the story and the characters to the point where it's kind of hard not to care. Speaking of Dune Part 3, Greg Fraser's not doing the cinematography of that movie because he did it here. I think Dune Part 3 will still be good, but Greg Fraser was a standout in those movies, and so it's no surprise that Project Hail Mary has gorgeous cinematography. Like, it has a bit of that old school flavor, but it also just makes the visual effects, especially when the characters are in space, just magnificent, especially with Rocky, although I'm pretty sure it's a mix of visual effects and practical work. Great all the way there. But I mean, yeah, also the visual effects are probably going to be contenders for the Oscars next year, even though Dune Part 3 is also coming out this year. Dune's Day pending. Going back on topic, though, Greg Fraser is absolutely a legend, and I will forever be interested in seeing what he does, and I will always acknowledge his cinematography. That's how fantastic of a job he does. Whatever he touches turns to gold, is basically what I'm saying. Daniel Pemberton's score is basically crescendos and heart, for lack of a better word. The point is, it's majestic, it's beautiful, and it never ceases to not be. Like, every time the music is implemented, it just adds to the magic in a lot of ways. Plus, it also complements the emotion and suspense you're supposed to be feeling. Just so I don't reveal too much, I do feel like the runtime, like 2 hours and 36 minutes, like, it could have been so easy for this to be boring, or at least a teeny bit, but I do feel the movie takes a pretty interesting and yet effective and smart approach where you kind of see the character in this amnesiac state, and he's trying to, like, figure out why is he in space, why is he here. Allows the audience to be in the same situation as the character Memento style, in which you're trying to figure out why is he here, who is he truly the Hail Mary that can actually save the world? Like, even though I'd argue that the dynamic between Grace and Rocky overshadows that, for better in my opinion, whenever it transitions back to the flashbacks and trying to figure out what the heck is happening, it just leaves you invested to the point where I can say you're never bored. Like, even if the movie takes a bit of time to, like, fully immerse you in this experience, it's never boring by any stretch of the word. You're still interested, and I do feel that's what this movie has above all else. Intrigue. And said intrigue really just allows you to fully dive into this experience. And I guess that's it. If I sound like I'm just highlighting the technical aspects instead of delving deeper into the story, that could be a result of me being tired, but I do feel like going into Project Hail Mary as blind as possible is definitely a good idea, even if you've already seen the trailers. The trailers in this case do not give you the entire movie, and that's definitely a great thing. Trailers should stop doing that. Regardless, Project Hail Mary is definitely the best narrative feature I've seen this year. The 21 Pilots fan in me is having a hard time, but regardless, I cannot deny this movie is just spectacular. Ryan Gosling handles this like a pro, while Lord and Miller, I cannot believe that they had this movie in them. I really cannot emphasize that enough. You'll be on the edge of your seat, you'll probably be pulling for a tissue box, you're going to enjoy this. The science nerd in you will probably understand everything they're saying, and even if you're not, the movie does a great job at hooking you nonetheless. And yeah, definitely one of the standouts of the decade that I feel its reputation will only grow with time, although I really am hoping it smashes opening weekend records. It definitely does deserve it. The Real Authority definitely approves. 10 out of 10. Definitely check it out in IMAX too, because the experience of seeing this movie in IMAX, it just elevates it. I'm not factoring it into the score, but it definitely does help with the space sequences, increasing the majesty as well as the magic. So I might as well mention that too, but yeah, absolutely recommended. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, to our notifications, and comment your thoughts on the movie, and let me know what you think is better, Project Hail Mary or The Martian. Alright, peace.